September 17, 1944, 14,000 feet above Eindhoven in the Netherlands, the largest airborne operation in history had just begun. Operation Market Garden filled the skies with paratroopers, gliders, and transports. But high above the drop zones, American P-47 Thunderbolts prowled. Their wings sagged under the weight of bombs that not long before no one would have believed possible for a single-engine fighter to carry. To the German Luftwaffe pilots scrambling to intercept, the sight was surreal. These bulbous American machines, once mocked as heavy and clumsy, now dove into battle, carrying 2,500 pounds of bombs, half the payload of a B-17 Flying Fortress. What they were witnessing was not simply another Allied fighter. It was a revolution in air warfare. Only 18 months earlier, German intelligence had dismissed the Thunderbolt. Their analysts saw an aircraft twice the weight of a Messerschmitt Bf 109. With a giant radial engine that looked unstreamlined and unrefined, it seemed an overweight brute that could never compete in a turning fight. And in the spring of 1943, the evidence appeared to support them. The P-47 had limited range, only 125 miles of combat radius. Its climb rate lagged behind German fighters, and in dogfights at medium altitude, the Focke-Wulf, 190 seconds, and Bf 109 seconds clearly held the upper hand. Luftwaffe tactics quickly adapted, forcing the heavy American fighters into vertical maneuvers where their mass became a liability. Everything about the P-47 seemed to confirm the German prejudice that American planes were big, clumsy machines lacking finesse. But what the Luftwaffe failed to see was what lay beneath that mass. The Thunderbolt's steel tubing, its armor plating, its oversized engine, and reinforced wing pylons. They were not inefficiencies, but potential. This was an aircraft built with strength margins so great that it could be adapted to missions no German fighter could dream of. By late 1943, American pilots returning from escort duty began experimenting, strafing trains, trucks, and fuel depots on their way home. The results were devastating. With 8 .50 caliber Browning machine guns, a P-47 could spit out more than 12 pounds of lead every second, ripping apart locomotives and shredding convoys in minutes. Engineers saw the promise. By November 1943, they had fitted Thunderbolts with bomb racks carrying 2 500-pound bombs. On November 25th, 8 P-47 seconds struck a Luftwaffe airfield in France, destroying hangars and aircraft on the ground. It was the beginning of a transformation. Over the winter, the aircraft was re-engineered again and again. Stronger wing spars, new electrical bomb release systems, advanced computing gun sights, and eventually unguided rockets with the power of artillery shells. By 1944, a single Thunderbolt could haul 10 rockets and a pair of 1,000-pound bombs, more firepower than many twin-engine bombers had carried earlier in the war. When D-Day arrived in June 1944, the Luftwaffe finally understood what had emerged. That day alone, nearly 2,000 Thunderbolt sorties dropped over 500 tons of bombs, strafed hundreds of vehicles, locomotives, and fuel depots. The fighter they had dismissed had become the most feared tactical weapon in the Allied arsenal. Even aces like Günther Röhrl, one of Germany's most celebrated pilots, admitted that once he faced the P-47, he realized its terrifying power. Its diving speed was unmatched, nearly 1,400 kilometers per hour, far beyond the limits of German fighters. Röhrl himself was shot down by Thunderbolts in May 1944, losing his thumb in the encounter. After the war, he flew captured P-47 seconds for hundreds of hours, marveling at their durability, reliability, and sheer versatility. That versatility posed an impossible problem. German pilots might scramble to intercept what they thought were bomb-laden fighter bombers, only to discover those same aircraft had dropped their loads seconds earlier and were now pure fighters again, waiting to engage with heavy guns and thick armor. Tactically, it was a nightmare. Strategically, it was a revolution. A squadron of Thunderbolts could deliver the same bomb tonnage as heavy bombers, but 3 times a day from forward airfields. 16 P-47 seconds could drop 32,000 pounds of bombs, equivalent to 8 B-17 seconds, but with far fewer crew, less fuel, and almost no logistical strain compared to the massive bomber fleets. The summer of 1944 proved just how destructive this new way of fighting could be. During the Falaise Pocket battles in August, P-47 seconds attacked relentlessly day after day. In just 4 days of fighting, their strikes destroyed hundreds of German tanks, trucks, locomotives, and horse-drawn wagons, crippling any attempt at retreat. Reconnaissance confirmed that roughly 1/3 of all German vehicles lost in that battle fell to Thunderbolt strikes. By September, with the arrival of the new 5-inch high-velocity aircraft rocket, even the vaunted Tiger and Panther tanks were vulnerable. A single P-47 could unleash a storm of rockets equivalent to a battalion's artillery barrage in seconds. The Luftwaffe's nightmare only deepened as the war dragged into winter. In December 1944, during the Battle of the Bulge, snow and fog grounded most aircraft, but the Thunderbolt, equipped with British rocket rails and improved instruments, kept flying. When the weather cleared just before Christmas, the results were catastrophic for Germany. Over 200 tanks destroyed, nearly 2,000 vehicles burned, and dozens of bridges shattered in days. By early 1945, Thunderbolts were even perfecting precision strikes against bridges and rail yards with astonishing accuracy, hitting within a few dozen feet of their targets in steep dive-bombing runs. Even the arrival of the jet-powered Me-262 couldn't shift the balance. The jet was faster, yes, but it needed long, vulnerable runways and vast amounts of scarce fuel. P-47 seconds simply bombed the bases. In March 1945, they caught a squadron of jets on takeoff, destroying 8 of them in minutes. The supposedly revolutionary jet force was crippled before it could ever make a difference. By the war's final months, the Thunderbolt was more than a fighter, more than a bomber. It was everything: reconnaissance, close air support, artillery spotting, leaflet drops, even emergency supply deliveries to surrounded troops. The same type of aircraft could carry out 6 different mission profiles in a single day. The statistics are staggering. Over 746,000 combat sorties, 132,000 tons of bombs dropped, 135,000 rockets fired, 119 million rounds of .50 caliber ammunition expended. They destroyed nearly 70,000 vehicles, 9,000 locomotives, and over 200,000 ground targets across Europe, and the cost a fraction of what strategic bombers required. A P-47 could deliver destruction at barely 15% of the cost of a B-17. It needed fewer crew, fewer ground staff, less time, and could fly more missions in a single day than any heavy bomber. The mathematics were undeniable. The fighter-bomber was the future, and the P-47 had proven it. German doctrine never anticipated such a weapon. Their philosophy was to build the best fighter, the best bomber, the best ground attack plane, each specialized for its role. American pragmatism chose another path, one aircraft that could adapt, evolve, and perform any role as the battlefield demanded. That adaptability, not perfection, became the decisive factor. By April 1945, German forces could barely move in daylight. Rail traffic had collapsed. Fuel could not reach the front. Reinforcements could not arrive. The Luftwaffe's pilots, mechanics, and commanders were left powerless, not because they lacked courage or skill, but because their entire system of war had been paralyzed by Thunderbolts. When Luftwaffe pilots looked up over Eindhoven on that September day in 1944, they thought they were facing overweight fighters. What they actually faced was the future. The P-47 Thunderbolt, mocked as too heavy and too clumsy, became the machine that rewrote the rules of air combat. Its legacy would carry forward into every jet fighter and strike aircraft that followed, and in that failure of imagination, the Luftwaffe sealed its own defeat.